Welcome back to an exciting video, and what we're talking about today are minor 7 flat 5 chords, diminished chords, and how to add a little tension and spice to your music. So the nice thing about major diminished chords, diminished 7 chords and minor 7 flat 5 chords is they add a lot of spice to your music, a lot of color. You know, if you're doing everything in just straight up major and minor chords, I mean, how boring does that get? Very, very fast, actually. But we start adding in 7 chords, because 7 chords, they just have a whole different sound adding in that 7th chord. I mean, if you take a regular C major, and if we turn this into a C major 7, the difference is vast in how that sounds. And the major 7 chord is a very beautiful chord, very pretty chord. But what we're going to do is, a lot of people don't use diminished chords or minor 7 flat 5 chords simply because they don't understand them or they don't know where to put them. And it's understandable. And if you don't, mess around in a lot of jazz or a lot of serious blues, you probably really don't use them. Or, a lot of prog rock, you probably really don't use them. But the nice thing about them is they add a tremendous amount of color, but they also add a tremendous amount of tension with a great release. And that is very important in music because it keeps the music exciting. It kind of keeps it, well, from sounding like this. How boring is that? Boring as hell is how boring that is. So what we're going to do is we're going to spice some of this up. So what I've done is I've got this progression. And there's a lot of chords in this progression. But what we're going to do is I'm going to break it down and I'm going to show you what adding in these minor 7 flat 5 chords and these diminished chords, I'm going to show you what it will do, how it works from transitioning from chord to chord, and how it will add that tension and then give you that really beautiful, nice release on the other side. Let me tighten up my watch real quick because it's a little too loose and it's flopping around and pissing me off, actually. So I'm going to start this off. We're going to start with A minor 7. Now you should know what an A minor 7 is. If you're watching a video on diminished chords, and chances are you know what an A minor 7 is, but just in case, A minor 7, bar everything off at 5, the whole thing, and then take your ring finger, add it to the 7th fret, 5th string, A minor 7. So the primary part of the song, we're going to call this verse for sake of argument. We have an A minor 7, a D minor 7, a G7, and a C major 7. So actually, I could have called this video a great primer in 7 chords, because if I'm not mistaken, pretty much everything in the song is a 7 chord. Everything's a 7. So we're going to have a little progression. We're going to do this. So that's kind of the basis of the song right there. And what we'll do is, coming off of the C major 7, we'll drop it down to a B major 7 just to give it a little spice. And return back to our A minor 7. All right, so after we get through that section, it's pretty straightforward. Nothing really needs to happen there. Okay, so after we get down, we come off our little... Okay, now we're going to go to an F major 7. And the goal is to get from this F major 7 to this E minor 7. So if I'm coming off of our C major 7 and I play through, and I go down to the A7. This is no longer an A minor 7. This is an A7. Kind of jumping out of key a little bit here. But the problem is, going from this F major 7 to this E minor 7, it just doesn't sound good. It's kind of boring. It's kind of like your cowboy chords playing G, C, and D. and it flows okay, but it's just, you know, bah, bah, bah. It's not really doing anything. It's not saying anything to me, and it's not really what I want. I want something a little spicier. I want something to have, you know, evoke a little more emotion. So what I'm going to do is I am going to drop a diminished chord in between the F major 7 and the E minor 7. We're going to drop an F sharp diminished 7 right in the middle. And listen to the difference. Here's without it. Now here is with the F sharp diminished. And the difference, again, is vast, because what we've done is we've added a lot of tension between the two chords, and we're letting it release back to that E. Our goal is F major 7 to E minor 7. But that's boring as hell. So let's add some tension. It's going to catch the listener's ear. They're going to be like, you know, they're going to be like, you know, F major 7. Oh, nice chord. Ooh. And that's what it is. We're adding tension, and then we're releasing the tension between the two chords. And you can hear the tension. When I go from here, here comes the tension when I go to this F sharp diminished. You can hear it pull. And then now we're going to push it back down for the release. And it transitions beautifully between the two chords. Because and that's literally what I'm doing is I'm taking an F major 7 and then I'm kind of pulling it away and I'm adding it in and I'm releasing it. But what's happening here, we have the 7 right here. And what we're doing is we're stepping the 7 down, even though our tonic of the chord, you know, when you play it by itself, it doesn't sound right. But when we start walking the 7 down under it, then all of a sudden, it becomes magic. Now all of a sudden, we got something working here. This is what we have going on. We're walking the 7 down. So basically, we have this going on, right? Now, when you listen to that, actually, that's pretty damn nice when you put it that way. And now all of a sudden the song has some interest. It's just not a boring, you know, just a couple of chords you've just slammed together because they happen to sound good together. So now we've inserted something right in the middle. Like I said, it's going to give us some tension. It's going to release. It's going to resolve back to that E minor 7 absolutely wonderfully. And our song already sounds better. It sounds worlds better. All right, so we get to this E7, E minor 7. So now we're going to go on to the progression, and now we're going to switch over to an A major 7. We're going to bounce out of key a little bit here. Because this E7 here doesn't resolve to an A minor worth of poo. So we're jumping out of poo-poo-doo-doo feces. So we're jumping out of key, and we're going to resolve this back to this A major 7, which just happens to move beautifully back into our D minor 7 and bring us back into key. Then we're going to go to the G7, and now we're going to bounce back up to our E minor 7. And this is what we're trying to get to. There's 3 chords, and we're going to play 2 chords, and we want to resolve back to our A minor 7, back to our tonic. So we're back here at our E7. I'm going to play it without the additional chords. And it sounds okay. But there again, it's just very, very boring. And it works, but it doesn't, that D minor just doesn't sound right there. So maybe we try a D major. Absolutely not. That sounds even worse. So let's try a D major 7. Still doesn't work. Still doesn't work. The two chords don't resolve well together. So the problem I'm having is going from here to here. From the E minor to the D minor. It just doesn't sound good. And of course, the D minor will resolve back to the A minor. So what we're going to do is between this D, this E minor, and this D minor, we're going to drop in a minor 7 flat 5 and a diminished chord. Then when we go from this D minor 7 back to the A minor, we're going to drop in another minor 7 flat 5 chord and a diminished chord to resolve us back to our A. And it sounds a world, I mean a world difference. Because there again, we're going to add this beautiful tension to it, and then we're going to release it. We're going to resolve it back to the chord. Then we're going to bring it right back in, resolve it back down again. So check this out. So here's the E minor. And then we're going to jump over here to a minor 7 flat 5. This is a D minor 7 flat 5. Then we're going to drop down to the D diminished. Then we're going to go to the D minor 7. We're going to go to the D minor 7 flat 5, to the D diminished, which is going to resolve us right back to our A minor. Absolutely beautiful. So here it is again without those chords. So now let's add in the minor 7 flat 5 and the diminished and listen to the difference. And it resolves wonderfully right back to our A minor. Now the problem when I was putting this together, what I didn't like was this. That sounds terrible to me. To my ear, that sounds absolutely terrible. So I thought, okay, well, I need this D minor 7. How do I get from here to here and make it sound great? Well, we're going to do our little diminished minor 7 flat 5 trick. And check this out. So I'm adding a lot of tension, like I said, and I'm releasing all this tension back into the next chord below it. And if you listen, I'm kind of stepping everything down in a sequence to get back, to get back to my A minor 7, which is where I started from. So when I go to this E minor 7 here, okay, right here, this note right here is our 7. Listen. And that resolves wonderfully back to our A minor. And I'm just having a cascading 7 moving down as I run through these chords, which adds so much more life than just this. That has no life. That is dead. There's nothing there, and it's boring. But if we add in the minor 7 flat 5 chords, I kind of screw that up all the time, and the diminished chords, now we have this cascading 7. But what else is going on here is we're also moving this 5th along with it. Check it out. Here's our 5. And if you notice, this 5 just happens to be A flat. And something that always wants to resolve wonderfully, beautifully, it wants to be there, is a half step down. What do I mean by that? Well, if I want to resolve to an A, and the note or chord I'm playing before it is an A flat, you can hear how it wants to resolve back. And it does that on all notes. If I'm at a G, and if I have a dominant, a strong note in a chord that's a G flat, it wants to resolve back, especially coming off of the third. If you're playing a song and your third is a half step below your tonic, it always wants to resolve back. It wants to pull back to that tonic, and it works out absolutely beautifully when you do that. But adding in a diminished chord or a minor 7 flat 5 chord really adds a tremendous amount of color and tension to your music. And it kind of gets you out of that boring, you know, if you're just doing the standard 1-4-5, 1-4-5, 1-4-5, start adding in some of these colorful chords, because that's going to make A, the music more interesting to your listener, and B, it's more than likely going to give you melodic ideas you never would have thought of before just doing the standard old chords. Here's our scale, we have 7 chords. Those are your 7 chords, but let's take that pesky diminished chord out. Now we got 6 chords. Now we just got 6 chords. We're fine with those 6 chords, you know? And that's how most people think about it. And the diminished chord is actually one of the best chords in the entire scale, because you heard what it does. You heard the amount of tension, the amount of excitement it'll put into the music. And especially if you're doing something that has a haunting overtone, diminished is the way to go. Shit, you listen to any great horror song in the world, it's diminished. Everything's diminished in it. Or minor 7 flat 5, more so diminished. All right, so how do we play these chords? Well, they're pretty easy to play, actually. And I'll give you a quick primer here, since I like saying the word primer, on how to do these. So we're going to go here to D, right? So and we're going to have to use all 4 of our fingers. Now you could do it this way, and that works just as well. I prefer this way, because usually I always have some kind of resolution to it. And if I'm doing it this way, it's just too damn hard to have to do it the other way. It's just too hard. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to here. We're at 5-5 with this finger. We're going to skip a string. We're going to go to our 3rd string, back in the 5th fret with this finger. We're going to put our number 4, our ring finger. We're going to go to the 6th fret, 4th string. And then we're going to drop this pinky in down here on the 6th fret, 2nd string. And this is a minor 7 flat 5. This happens to be a D minor 7 flat 5, E minor 7 flat 5, F minor 7 flat 5, F sharp minor 7 flat 5. Now, like I said, you can play it this way too. Go back to the D, you can bar it all off, use your 2nd finger, put it on the 4th string, 6th fret, and take your ring finger and drop it down on the 2nd string, same fret. And you also have your minor 7 flat 5. The reason I play it this way though, is because the minor 7 flat 5 loves to move to the diminished chord. You can hear it. And it's just dying. It is dying to resolve back to its tonic. It's just everything you're doing there is pulling it back to your tonic. And that's why I play it in this position. It will take you a minute, if you've never played it like this, to get this fingering down quickly, because it's kind of an odd fingering, the way, because you have 2 here and 2 here on the fret. So it's kind of an odd stacking. But if we take our minor 7 flat 5, and of course to make the diminished, what we're going to do is we're going to move this finger, finger number 2, we're going to put it up at 5-5. And we're going to move this finger, we're going to move this back to the 3rd string, 4th fret. And now we have our D diminished 7 here. Now, these are diminished in minor 7 flat 5 chords on the 5th string. But what do we do if we start on the 4th string? Well, it's actually pretty simple. If we take our D minor 7 flat 5, and we just move everything down 1 string, don't have to change anything. Now this becomes our G diminished. Here it's a minor 7 flat 5. If you move everything down, it's a diminished, because we have that shift between strings 2 and 3. So now we have our diminished here, and this is a G, A, diminished. Now if we want to make this into a minor 7 flat 5, it's actually pretty simple. All we do, keep this finger here, and then just bar off the 3 strings, 1, 2, and 3, 1 fret up. Now we have our diminished. or minor 7 flat 5, I'm sorry. So this is a G minor 7 flat 5. G diminished, minor 7 flat 5. D minor 7 flat 5, D diminished. And if you start using these chords and you use them the way that I showed you how to use them, you're going to start opening doors you didn't even know that you had. Because musically, you're going to start hearing a ton of ideas. Now, it's not something you can just go crazy on. You can't put them in between every single chord. It's not going to work. You do have to find the chords that it works with. Usually it will work. If you're going from a major 7 and you're stepping down a half step to a minor 7, that is a great place to drop a diminished chord right there. And like I said, if we're here at E, I'm going to throw in this F diminished, then I'm going to roll down to this D sharp minor 7. And it works fantastic when you're doing it that way. If your chords are separated by a semitone, then that's a great place to drop in a diminished chord. And it works beautifully every single time. And then also, like I said, when I'm coming from this here, when I'm trying to move a full step, minor to minor, that's where I put in the minor 7 flat 5 and the diminish to walk me down to it. And you'll hear it will force you back to your tonic, which ultimately is where I want to go anyway. So if I'm here at the E, I'm going to pull up this minor 7 flat 5, go to the diminished, which is going to walk me straight in to a full step down, minor again. Then I'm going to go minor 7 flat 5, diminished, and that's going to stick me right back. And you can hear it. It wants to be here. And it resolves fantastically back to your tonic. So that is my little primer, my little on 7 chords. Actually, it's just about everything on 7 chords. Every damn chord in this song is a 7 chord. Everything. There was not one regular chord in it. Everything was a 7 chord. So this is actually a good primer on 7 chords. But the point of this was to show you how diminished chords and minor 7 flat 5 chords can really spice up your sound, add a lot of tension and a lot of interest to your music. So on that note, I'm going to wrap it up right there. Please subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or comments, put it down into the comment section. Please like the video. Please share the video. Yes, I have not been putting up as many videos as I used to. Just got a lot of other things going on with my other channel. And, it's been doing a lot of motorcycle riding and stuff lately. So I have not been putting up as much stuff. And if you watched my last video, the constant fighting of YouTube just gets exhausting. And with YouTube, it's just a constant fight. Everything you do on YouTube is a fight. So I will start getting more content back up, but I just had to get that out of my system, man, because they were pissing me off something fierce. They were pissing me off. So here we go again. So sorry about all that. But on this note, I'm going to wrap it up. On that note, I'm going to wrap it up. And like the great Sammy Harris says, if you miss a beat, you lose the rhythm and nothing falls into place. And no matter what you do for the love of God, rock on.